the seasonal discussion of Superman's citizenship and is Superman a fascist because he has a waifu and a kid? I mean, it is kind of fascist that his kid was hyper aged up and then became gay and then had powers where he could Shazam himself into a grown up and then back into a kid, which made his whole gay relationship viscerally uncomfortable.
Well, it is 1 minute two, and oh, we're live. Good. So I'm going to say this: images are not innately fascist, but fascists use images.
Well, first of all, nobody knows what fascism is. And this is not a new
Right.
problem. The fascists didn't know what fascism is.
Sure, but here's what I'm getting at, though. Whether you're talking about the fascists, the commies, the totalitarians, the corporate cronies, whoever it is, everyone seems to have this belief handed down from Himmler, I think, that controlling the art controls the language of the people,
Well, that
right?
actually it actually predates fascism. It comes from Antonio Gramsci, a communist.
Right. And a lot of people have been talking about Gramsci and the what is it, the Frankfurt School?
Oh, well, the Frankfurt School is a different animal, but Gramsci's theory is that
Yeah,
successful revolutions require social hegemony, where you take
right.
over the social
But
institutions.
but that's the thing, is that you look at early communist imagery with its uh utilitarianism and its sort of blank we are the people iconography, as opposed to that giant scowling face that Mussolini had. And you can almost see what they're saying, because they're trying to say that the iconography of early 20th century America, also oddly enough often done by left-leaning commies, uh, is the language of fascism. Like, you can see how they want to say that, right? But the problem
Let me,
is that you could just as readily say that those images are patriotic or universalist or egalitarian, because
yeah,
they're images. They don't have identities. They don't speak things.
mm, mm,
They're
mm.
they're not necessarily as clear as a symbol, and I still bet most people cannot tell the difference between an Asian flyfoot and a German swastika. They're constantly confused by it.
It, you know what's funny about that?
Eh.
You know where I first learned about the difference?
Mm.
In a little TV show you might have heard of called Spider-Man and His Amazing Friends.
Really?
Yes, yes, where agents of the Red Skull broke into a place and they found one. It was actually the Native American one, which is similar to the
Mm.
Asian one. And the Red Skull's like, no, you idiots, it's going the wrong way.
You know where I learned that difference?
Hmm.
From another little show you might have heard of called Kolchak the Night Stalker.
Also excellent. Also, really
The,
around the same time frame, like
there was
within
a
a couple of years.
there was an episode of Kolchak where he was investigating mysterious deaths in basically Little India, of whatever city he was in, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because there was a Rakshasa on the loose. And
I mean, that's a bad time.
apparently the demons are kept at bay by the Flyfoot. But it was a plot point that the vast majority of American reporters who Kolchak was interacting with and the cops didn't know the difference. So they were basically rousting out uh, uh,
Neo-Nazis.
law-abiding ethnics for having Nazi symbols. It's like, but they're not Nazis. It's a demon. They're trying to protect themselves from a demon. And of course, nobody believes in Rakshasa in America, so that's extra funny.
And I mean, it gets complicated calling a Rakshasa a demon. But
Right. By
also the
by the
late.
way, Joe's tip for anybody watching: if you encounter a Rakshasa, call it Uncle. It will not harm you, on the premise that if you're actually related to it, it doesn't want the bad karma of killing a relative.
So also, as the discussion has once again came up in time for the 4th of July about is Superman fascist, there's also rediscussion of Superman's citizenship and naturalization status. And what's funny about that is I gave you a little story I've been working on to read,
Oh yeah.
which is very Superman-alike, and I'm going to use this story to explain how Superman's citizenship status works. Now, in the 1930s, things were a little looser, but what'll happen is, especially in farm country, babies are born, they're taken to the doctor. It's not necessarily within the time frame that happens and paperwork is reported.
Yeah.
But let's say you're good upstanding country folk and you say, hey, we found this baby. That's where a foundling law gets into play. Now, since I wrote one where this happened in 2010, I looked up what the laws are in the great state of Nebraska. So here's my story. Uh, a baby is found in a spacecraft. There's a brief discussion about naming the child Clark. The mother immediately vetoes that one. Talked about Billy as the second name. She says, you mean
No.
like, no. She says, you mean like Shazam? And he's like, no, honey, Captain Marvel. No. And then he gets away with Ralph because she
Right.
didn't think about Greatest American Hero. Now, technically, under the laws of the great state of Nebraska, and in most states, this person would be taken possession of by the state and be institutionalized. But in a rural community, social workers can make the determination saying, hey, this couple that found the baby, if they want to keep them and hold them for us, there's no problem with that. And then after a couple of weeks of making a good faith effort to find the parents, the kid becomes adoptable. That has all the nice legal paperwork that says they're 100% a citizen.
Yep.
So, in reference to Clark Kent, what happens is if the Kents did that, Clark Kent, U.S. citizen, unambiguously, no problem. Now, if they find out that Clark Kent was, Kal-El, that becomes a different legal question. Did the Kents commit meaningful fraud by failing to disclose this baby they found was from outer space? That is an unresolved legal question. Now, during the
God, I
John
am a
Byrne,
hyper nerd. Carry on.
now during the John Byrne era in the 80s with the post-crisis reboot, he said that Kal-El was sent to Earth in a gestation chamber. Thus, it was effectively like he was inside a woman's body. So when he emerged from the gestation chamber, as a matter of law, he was a natural born citizen, like he came out of a person, as opposed to a piece of super science. So, for those of you at home, there's not anybody at home right now, and there may be people later, but not right now. Superman is a 100% naturalized citizen and 100% native born citizen insofar as the law is concerned. But there might be a little oopsie doopsie problem if he says, yeah, my parents knew I was an alien and they didn't tell the government. Now, in my story, the parents explicitly didn't tell the government because they didn't trust the government. And later, when the government finds out about the government doesn't want to know anything because the government doesn't trust the government.
As it should. But I just had a thought, stupid thought. I've been watching a legal comedy, as you may or may not
Mhm.
know, Boston Legal. It's a bit out of date now, but I mean, it's a bunch of good actors.
Yeah,
And it occurs to me that I would love it if somebody did a comic where they tried to bring Superman up on charges of being an illegal alien, right?
they did something close to that once.
Well, I was talking to you before show, as we often do, just a little bit of pre, like, what are we going to talk about tonight? Um, and I mentioned that from a certain perspective, you could make the argument that Superman is Jewish because Kal-El was conceived, or at least the Kryptonian origin was conceived by a pair of Jewish authors as a
And
Jewish stand-in.
and it's a retelling of the Moses story,
Right.
and it's representative
It,
of the Jewish integration narrative of that particular time in human history.
well, the reason I was saying I'm a hyper nerd is because I can just see Superman on the stand arguing that he's an American. And when they try to say, you're a Kryptonian, right? He basically says, "Whoa, that's my religion," and they're like, "Wait, what?" It's like, "I'm a Kryptonian. We worship Rao, the god of the Platonic idea of raw science, right?" And just basically puts the argument. It's like, what do you want to be? Do you want to be against immigrants or do you want to be against space Jews? Because both of those are politically untenable.
But as we talked a little bit about how
Yeah.
laws worked in the past, and let's talk about how Sony and Amazon took us to sort of past in Spider Noir. So first things first, Joe, what did you think of Spider Noir? We're gonna drill down into the specifics, but broadly, what did you think?
Yeah, because all right. So broadly, there's nothing wrong with it. Broadly,
I mean, I'm gonna disagree.
well, no, because there are particulars we're going to dig into where the wrong is stronger. But I'm saying broadly, I don't have a problem with it. It didn't offend me by its existence.
Yeah, it didn't offend me
But
either, but
but
it was wrong.
but I will say, in total contrariness to a lot of the discourse going on the Twitter, it's not particularly good either. And I don't care that it got Nick Cage being Nick Cage. Okay, it's not actually great. It's not even a by the numbers noir because it never really wants to be a noir.
Now, I don't know if the Spider Noir comics were
Well,
very noir either.
I mean, they weren't, but here's this about that though, because that's the interesting thing. In build up to this show, I'd say I've read a bunch of comics. I read
And,
all the Spider Noir books,
okay.
and it is not like any of them. None of the things overlap. It's not Peter Parker because it's supposed to be Ben Riley, even though there's a strong intimation that it's actually Peter Parker, but they couldn't finagle the right with Sony, right?
Mm.
It's not the stories of those comics. It's another multiverse distaff. This is
It's multiverse sludge.
this is Nick Cage talking with cotton in his mouth, being Detective Man Ben Riley.
And not really being a detective, if we're
Not
honest.
really. He doesn't actually do a lot of detecting.
So, what is your seminal uh your seminal noir experience? What was your first taste into noir as a genre?
Okay, well, first taste, there are probably others, but when you say seminal, the one that you come back to time and time again, I wish I could say it was a less recent one. I wish I could say it was a classic. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
And like I said, there were others I had seen before. Like I saw The Untouchables years ago, but it's not the one I keep coming back to. My comfort food film noir is a neo noir.
Okay.
Dark City.
I mean, I'll treat that as fair. I will officially rank that as a fair one.
The last act is very magical science fiction, psychic powers, sure, but that first half when you have John Murdoch roaming the city trying to figure out who he is and what's going on while he's being menaced by people with strange intents and half truths and lies. It's very film noir.
Mm-hmm.
When I actually started digging into film noir, I mean, the classics are there, but they're not the big classics like Top of the World Ma or oh God, I can't think of it. It's like I was never into Casablanca, right? My
Well,
folks bought my
let's
folks bought a bunch of classic movie collections,
hmm?
right? So I ended up watching a bunch of lesser known film noir, like the one with oh god, his name's right in my head. The guy that was the voice of the Shadow, Orson Welles.
Yeah.
Where he's a guy that does clocks.
Mhm.
Do you know the one?
I know of it.
It's really good. I just wish I could remember the name. I
Now
saw lots of early Hitchcock, which was technically film noir too.
let me give you some more modern things that you're probably
Okay.
not thinking of in the film noir space,
Mm-hmm.
like Chinatown
I saw Chinatown. That is a film noir, definitely.
or L.A. Confidential. L.A. Confidential is a great film noir,
Absolutely a film noir.
and it was one of the first major roles for Russell Crowe.
So is Black Dahlia.
Yes. So I struggled to get through Spider Noir because there wasn't a lot to put my teeth into. There wasn't a lot of action until the very end, and what action there wasn't very good. Wasn't good for period. Wasn't good for period superhero. Um, there wasn't really a through line mystery, and it wasn't really a bunch of episodic detective cases. I mean, it was, but the detective cases were more kind of an excuse for everybody to sort of mill around about the plot.
All right, let me give an example. I'm gonna compare another neo noir to things in Spider Noir, and hopefully you and the viewers at home will see the difference.
Mm.
So in Spider Noir, where Ben Riley is trying to hide his powers, he often gets picked up by scary men who take him places and threaten him.
Mm.
Right? But he just goes because he's Spider-Man and he's not actually in any danger at all.
And
Right?
also, the protagonists in noirs typically go when gangsters picks them up.
To some degree, but the intimation is, right, is that all of this is because of his hero's journey from no power, no responsibility to, okay, it's all right to be an aging Spider-Man because somebody's got to fight the good fight. Right?
I mean, kind of, yeah.
A lot of this hinges on I'm just going with it because I go with it. Comparative.
Mm-hmm.
I like The Last Boy Scout, which is a neo noir.
Yeah.
In it, Bruce Willis is a former federal officer from the Secret Service who lost his job for punching out a dick cheese, right?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And now he works as a scumbag detective, right?
Yeah.
His
Yeah.
faith in the system is destroyed. His faith in other people is destroyed. But most of all, his faith in himself is destroyed, right? And after being hustled out of a club by the woman he's supposed to be protecting, he's standing in the parking lot and he looks down and sees a cigarette on the ground, wet, slimy, probably been walked on half a dozen times, and says, I'm a scumbag. And he reaches down to pick it up, presumably to dry it out and smoke it, at which point he is clubbed over the back of the head by a bad guy. The bad guy then walks him to an alleyway with the intent to shoot him, promising him that it's not your fault, it's just the wrong time, wrong place. And so Bruce Willis challenges him to a succession of your wife jokes, right? And he finally looks at the guy and says, "Ask me how fat she was." Right? And the guy is staring at him real hard, and eventually he says, "How fat was she?" Because he's got to know, right? And Bruce Willis drops a series of absolutely comedic bombs, the dirtiest fucking your mama jokes, right? And the bad guy starts to laugh, and because the bad guy took his eye off the prize, Bruce Willis owns his fucking face with his fists. In time to then go try and save the day, and they almost save the girl, but the girl gets killed. So now it's Damon Wayans and Bruce Willis against the world to avenge a dead chick, as a film noir do.
As a film noir
right?
do.
the
So there is a Dame in this movie,
yeah.
and it's a Dame based off of a character in comic books who I don't really give a shit about.
Well, we're going to talk about the comic book depiction of the Dame in a minute, but she is also she's also the Dragon Lady. She's the femme fatale, and
Yeah,
never quite works up the femme fatale.
That's the other part that makes me feel viscerally uncomfortable, because they race swapped an Asian lady into a role
Okay.
that does make her a dragon lady.
Okay, we're going to talk about it now. So, problems.
We're doing it live. We're doing it live.
Problems with Spider-Noir. You're telling me, filmed on location in LA, they couldn't find one platinum blonde in LA. They couldn't get the Asian woman to fucking dye her hair. So they had an Asian woman not only evoke the Dragon Lady, a discredited, somewhat racist artifact of the time period,
but one
they race swapped a white woman for an Asian woman for no reason.
But also, while the Dragon Lady is sometimes a racist trope, Lucy Liu and a lot of Asian actresses have subverted that trope to excellent play.
Absolutely.
Which could work excellently in Spider-Noir, but doesn't.
Right, because the thing is, they don't give her anything to do opposite the very excellent acting chops of the guy playing Silvermane, a reasonably well-known character actor who's like a Scottish guy that's in a bunch of things.
And he's played mobsters in tons of things.
Multiple things.
So he was basically sleepwalking through this role. But
but there's like, his sleepwalking is still head and shoulders better than most. And the scenes where he and Nick Cage are opposite each other are actually very good.
Because Nicolas Cage's performance in a Nicolas Cage is it's weird. It's a weird performance.
Well, no. Here's the thing.
No. Hear me out.
Okay.
It's a weird performance because Nicolas Cage is taking all the 30s, 40s, 50 noir performances and has internalized them to make the Ben Reilly character. So he does lots of exaggerations and facial stuff and sort of weird sort of body mechanics because he's emulating these older films.
Here's the thing. There's basically 3 Ben Reileys in this movie.
Yes.
Okay? The first one is Nick Caging, doing his theatrical kabuki. What's that?
Yes.
That's the fight scene in the bar where he's drunk and dressed as Spider-Man and beating the shit out of those guys, but he's also drunk, so it's kind of half-ass. Right?
Mm-hmm.
That's Nick Caging it. Okay? Then there's Nicolas Cage trying to act dramatically, where he talks like a tired old man because he is a tired old man with cotton in his mouth because he's got this slur like he's Jimmy Stewart, but not.
He's also trying to pull off a little bit of a Bogart too.
Right, and it's not landing. Like, nobody had the chutzpah to tell him as a producer, sir, it's not landing. But then there are moments, such as when he's opposite Silvermane, where Nicolas Cage becomes Ben Reilly, Private Dick. And he's actually quite impressive. There's a shrewd operator. The scene where they figure out, for instance, about the doctor, right? And Nicolas Cage is standing there with the coffee cup in his hand and says, sometimes you forget I do this professionally. He's actually being the character for once.
And that's also the sort of thing that you would see in an old noir.
Right.
That's something the good old noirs would do.
So now I'm going to talk about the 800-pound gorilla in the room because it has to lead us into talking about cinematography, but we got to start from this position. Having now mentioned the Dragon Lady and how inappropriately cast Felicia Hardy is as a non-black cat.
Also, if you're going to do a Dragon Lady or a Dragon Lady adjacent thing, and you're not doing the comic, why don't you just throw Silk in there? I mean, am I wrong?
Here's the thing. given the relationship they attribute Felicia to Sandman, they should have just made it Silver Sable.
Well, yes.
Just make her a spy hunter in a terrible situation and go with it. But
But also we're gonna dig into the relationships of the characters.
Right, we're gonna into relationships, but here's the thing. When I say that they don't want to commit to the bit, okay? And this is extra funny because I've been watching DS9, so of course I've been subjected to a lot of racial conversations because Cisco was the black captain, so we got to talk about blackness.
But
this film is set in 1939, and they don't quite want to get into the particulars of the racial dichotomy,
except for with Lonnie Lincoln, but they fuck up that.
They fuck that up so hard. And again, we'll talk about cinematography in a minute.
But yeah.
So,
and also Robbie taking over paper in the 30s.
Well, that's the thing. Let's walk through the expanded cast, because now we have this idea of Ben Reilly, we got Silvermane, we got Felicia Hardy. Who's on Team Spider? So first we have Robbie Robertson as Ben Urich. That's basically who his character really is. He's playing Ben Urich, black newspaper man in the 30s. I don't actually have a problem with this.
There were black
newspaper guys.
Yeah, there were. Now those people becoming editors in chief and things, that's a little much for the 30s.
Well, here's the thing. This is the very key thing. This is why I mentioned DS9. There's an episode of DS9 where Cisco is pissed off because all the crew and staff want to go play around in Vic Fontaine's casino, which is set in the late 50s, early 60s, which is not an ideal time for people of color, right? Mm-hmm. And his girlfriend talks him out of it because she says, look, it may not be how it was, but it's a vision of how it should have been, right?
Mm-hmm.
People of all ethnicities just hanging out, having fun at a casino at a time in the world when you could do that. Mm-hmm. This is a true thing. So we're looking at a comic book in live action. I am open to the argument, right, that in a time of racial discrimination, that Robbie Robertson can be an editor-in-chief because he's the Spider-Man guy, right? He broke a big boy story, and he parlayed that into success that is well outside his scope. He deserves it. Okay. But I will also firmly put down, sorry to say it, Robbie Robertson is an uppity Negro, and he's going to get his shit kicked in one of these days.
And also, that would make Robbie Robertson, within the context of the Spider Noir, a conservative black man.
Yes.
So he would be less likely to rock the boat.
But I'm just saying, within the context of the time period that they're dealing in, he is playing a dangerous game with fire.
Yes.
Okay. But I don't have a problem with Ben Reilly's secretary being a feisty Latina. Doesn't bother me. I don't even have a problem. I don't even have a problem with her becoming a partner and having her name on the glass. That's forward thinking. That is believable.
My problem was her being a big girl.
Right. That obviously there was we need to hit some stamps for Hollywood. But even then, I find that really minor.
No. It wasn't a big deal because, he has a secretary, I guess. They want to make her Hispanic. There weren't a lot of Hispanics in 1930s New York.
Not in New York. If they'd put it in San Francisco, we would have been like, oh, yeah, sure. but then...
I would let that go.
But this is where we come to the big one. Lonnie Lincoln as Tombstone, living in the Downs in the Hooverville in Harlem. This is the Harlem Renaissance. This is a time of great opulence for the black community in New York.
Also, the Hooverville was in the park.
Right. And this is where we get into cinematography. So
Well,
people are talking.
hold up.
Okay.
Before we get to cinematography thing,
Okay.
Tombstone
Yeah.
is an albino. He's an albino black
Well, he wasn't an
man.
albino originally. He became an albino because of the chemical accident that made him.
Well, in later comics, they said he was always an albino. Like they had
Okay.
Bobby and he going back into high school, and he was
Yeah.
always an albino.
Right, because they were always friends. I've seen
Right.
that episode of the cartoon.
Right. So Tombstone as an albino black man, that actually gives him an interesting personality as well as aesthetic for his character. And taking that away from him and making him look vaguely like a low budget Killer Croc,
Diet Gargoyle, yeah.
Diet Gargoyle, like a well, why you do that?
And then they made him low class. Now, I'm not saying low class is a pejorative. Low class is bad. I'm saying Lonnie Lincoln as Tombstone is a straight up fucking gangster.
Yeah.
And they made him a po' boy from the poor side of town.
Yeah.
This is missing the beat pretty severely.
Lonnie Lincoln is like that real life gangster that Denzel Washington played in that one movie.
Right.
And that's another element of the character they took away from that. In any other period Spider-Man piece, you'd say okay, but this one, in the height of gangs and shit in New York, what are you doing? Well, why are you doing that?
Well, here's the thing. As a for instance, they use World War One, which they only call the war, which is correct because World War Two hasn't quite happened yet. To notionalize that Lonnie and company were soldiery, and this is where they got experimented on, and this is how they all became superheroes or super villains, as the case may be. And that he's not going to sacrifice himself for a white man again because he already tried to give his bit for king and country, and the country turned on him, which is a legit beef, right? Except that's not the character of Lonnie Lincoln. Those of us who are comic fans are like, no, Lonnie Lincoln's thing was that he came from the bad side of the tracks and he had lost out, but his response was not to suffer in silence and just deal. His response was to become incredibly ruthless and do whatever the fuck he had to do to get his. Whereas Robbie Robertson is an ideally responsible person who would never go so far as to murder, betray, steal, destroy, burn. Yeah.
That's the whole point of their characters and their dichotomy.
Right. Tombstone is supposed to be a ruthless bastard. You could have had a much more interesting dichotomy, quite frankly, if you had had Tombstone be the Sandman's role in this show, right? That even though Silvermane is a aging Irish gangster, right? He has selected out of all the potential followers as his right hand muscle this aggressive young black dude because he knows how to get shit done, right?
Mm-hmm.
Which speaks to the character of Silvermane being meritocratic rather than just a murderer.
And meritocratic does tend to fit the character of Irish gangs.
It does.
But let's get to the really big problem, the cinematography.
Right. So
what's your beef with the cinematography?
Well, as it has been pointed out, basically, it was filmed once, but it was filmed on two different types of cameras, one in color, one in black and white. Because Nick Cage was of the opinion that they couldn't just do it in black and white because kids today had never seen black and white movies or hadn't seen enough black and white movies to understand why it'd be black and white and wouldn't be open to it. Right? And it's whatever, because in my expedition to watch these through perfectly legal means, I swear, not every episode I saw was black and white. Some of them I had to see in color. right? So I got a range of experiential from both. My problem is that even though we have able computer graphics
Mhm.
and excellent cinematographical knowledge, they didn't use any of it. People are saying, "Oh, this fight is peak." No, this fight is bargain bin, and they tween all over the place. It's hard cut, hard cut, hard cut. The actual quality of the photography of the black and white does not evoke the film noir era. They don't do anything with the lighting, with the framing, with the structure. They barely use some Dutch angles here and there, sparingly. Okay? It is
I mean,
not a good depiction of the era as a filmic piece.
also you need to remember you do need to use Dutch angles sparingly. You don't want to be all Battlefield Earth about your Dutch angles.
Sure, but the reason I mention this is because first, starting with Lonnie, they not only made him diet gargoyle, budget killer croc, right? But as you say, he's an albino. Think about how much they could have played with the visuals of someone that's either starkly white or is actually gray on camera in grayscale.
Yeah.
So the presentation is really not trying. And then we have the problem of Sandman. Now, Sandman's characterization's not fully off, right? He's halfway decent. But we all grew up, or we were younger people, watching the Sam Raimi Sandman movies. We've
Mhm.
seen what good CGI looks like when it makes a Sandman. This Sandman doesn't look like Sandman. This Sandman looks like Concrete Man with some sandy face at various bits. And I didn't understand why. I was watching black and white episodes early on. I'm like, why is he like this? Why is he so wrong? Then it hit me when I saw it in color. It's like, oh, his sand segments are gray because they needed it to show up on the black and white. If they had done it in color, it would have been invisible. So the decision to do black and white and color actually harmed the visuals because they wanted to do it on a fucking shoestring. Because doing the visuals right would have cost time and money.
So here's one of my principal issues with cinematography. Everything's fucking digital. Everything's
Yeah.
hyper polished. It's slick, and that is not how a noir looks visually.
No,
It's
it,
kind of
it
it's kind of
needs.
grainy. It's kind of grimy, and that adds to the tone of the piece.
I am going to say something for someone that I shouldn't, but I just want to put this out there into the atmosphere. Imagine for a moment if Quentin Tarantino had done the cinematography for this movie.
I mean, Quentin would have made sure it looked like the old ass movies.
He would have been extremely autistic. Would have made sure that it had eyes of God and little scratches on the film. Yeah, it would have looked very much like a film noir.
But the visuals were an issue, but also there wasn't a lot of really super heroic visuals because they were being cheap.
Well, as I said, I'm gonna use the specific scene I saw being lauded. So there's a scene where Electro, who's a fat subway worker in this, that they call Megawatt rather than Electro. I suppose they couldn't get the name from Sony. Fights Spider-Man, and the character actor playing the role is actually a well-known TV character actor. He's quite good at the bit, even though they don't give him a lot to work with. So he makes it work for himself because they don't give Electro enough build up to be a person. He's just a dude who shows up with powers,
Mhm.
right? Um, the thing is that okay, so scene one, he throws lightning and misses. Scene two, Spider-Man throws the webbing and he gets webbed in the hands. Scene three, Electro fires his electricity down the webbing and zots Spider-Man, and Spider-Man is thrown back and falls to the ground. And then from the ground, Electro touches the water, and the electricity races down the water because water carries a current, if you know your science, and electrocutes Spider-Man more. Cool. What does this look like? Do we get lots of broad establishing shots? No. Do we get lots of dynamic shots, or maybe we start from Spider-Man and then we zip down the line to Electro, and then we do a 360 where we look back at Spider-Man? No. What do? What do? Hard cut, Spider-Man. Hard cut, Electro. Hard cut, Spider-Man getting zapped. Hard cut, fall over. Hard cut, zapping more. It is not just budget cinematography. It is budget camera work. Something that has actually been criticized in their primary theatrical releases, like Spider-Man No Way Home, where the director in question is an able director. He's good at bringing things in under budget. But if you're looking for any kind of dynamism or real inventiveness to try and make that scene pop, the language of comics, got to make those lines pop. There is none. It is very static. It is very by the numbers. You see it here, you see it there, you see it here, you see it there. I'm not kidding. I didn't realize until the last episode his character was there that they had Andrew Robinson in this.
Mm-hmm.
Andrew Robinson, for those who don't know, was not only Garrick on DS9, but he was the Scorpio in Dirty Harry.
I mean, he's been in a lot of good things because he's a really good actor.
Really good actor. And he got like 3 scenes, maybe.
But you know who they really should have got was the guy who played the cop. Did he die?
Marco Lermo? I don't believe so.
Okay.
To the internet.
But my fundamental issue is it didn't have the visuals of a noir. There weren't the scenes to do interesting visuals, and everything was digital and slick. And the music was also digital. There's
No,
not the scratchy sounds.
Marco Lermo is still alive.
Well, he would have been great in this.
Oh yeah. But no, on the subject of music, no, I hate the music.
Because they're not doing. They were not doing period music. They were doing cosplay period music.
No, they did 3 things, and it all sucks. So there are a couple of parts where they do actually use period music, usually in very small amounts, usually in the background, like on a record player, right? Then they do covers of classic songs, right? So when their Felicia Hardy sings "The Night Has a Thousand Eyes" and it sucks, right? And you're asking yourself, why does this suck so bad? It's either because A, she's not singing it, or B, because the cover they did is just terrible, right?
The cover was terrible.
Well, because I mentioned Dark City earlier. In Dark City, the female lead in that also does a cover of "The Night Has a Thousand Eyes," and it's about 1,000,000 times better. And that's not because I like the movie better. That's because it's actually better, and she clearly actually sang it.
And also, "The Night Has a Thousand Eyes" made more sense for the story of Dark City.
Right.
It didn't really fit that scene.
But then, and this is the big one, they have a bunch of retro jazz, new music that is jazz alike.
Like Amy Winehouse stuff.
Right. Especially that opening number for the credits. And it is just bad. Okay.
And again, none of the sound had the non-digital texture qualities. Everything was fucking sterile sounding.
And every so often they have a fight scene or something, but instead of period music, they'll use modern orchestral fight music. Right? Let me paint you a picture, Larry. I want you to imagine a much better scene for a minute. For whatever reason, we still have the scene. Ben Reilly is at his worst. He is in the bar. He is drunk. Okay? A bunch of dudes are talking shit. And so he steps outside, puts on his spider mask, comes back down the steps because Spider-Man's gonna beat the shit out of these guys, right?
Mhm.
And the second before he steps in, somebody puts a coin in the juke or puts on a record, and it's "Let's Misbehave."
Mm.
Right? So
That's good stuff.
the whole fight is this classic dance number for the young people. With Spider-Man getting his shit kicked in, but also beating up guys to the song "Let's Misbehave," because we all know it's code to the audience. Ben, don't do this. This isn't what you should be doing. You have to go fight the bad guys, not get in a fight with these schlubs. And it's funny. It's stupid, but it's funny. No, we can't do any of that. We can never. That's what I'm saying. They never commit to the bit. They never actually make a film noir, because that would have involved more artisanal focus.
Now, I don't think the Kaiser's people having mad science, it's never worked for me. When that one Kingsman prequel series tried to do that. No, not the Kingsman prequel. Wonder Woman. When
I'm
Wonder
gonna
Woman
I'm
tried to
gonna
do
I'm
that,
gonna I'm gonna
it didn't
go
work for me.
I'm gonna go deeper for you, Larry.
Okay.
It's not the Kaiser, even though it should be the Kaiser. They're doing the exact same thing DC is doing. We are living in a time right now where people are trying to gaslight you that the Nazis were in World War One and that the Nazis tried again in World War II Electric Boogaloo. You know how I know this? Do
How
you
do you know
recall?
this?
Do you recall the scenes in the bunker where Ben Reilly shot and killed a bunch of German soldiers?
Yes,
Did you notice their helmets?
I did. I did.
Not a single spike.
Not a single spike.
Not a one. Not a single Imperial helmet. All of them were discount Stormtrooper helmets.
Probably because they have a shit ton of them in a backlot somewhere.
I mean, I can't fault. They have a bunch of them. But I'm saying, would it have been so hard to say, okay, kid, your job today, here's 10,000 helmets or, 100 helmets we need for the shot. Before tomorrow, glue a spike on each and every one of them. Nobody will know the difference.
Yeah.
Right?
Um,
That easy.
and you know what's funny?
Mm.
Tom, who I play role playing games with every Saturday, he has a campaign that he's inherited from a GM who basically let him start running in his setting, and he said, "You keep it, Tom, because you've done more with it than I did." He initially introduced Nazis in World War One, which Tom initially retconned as agents of the Thule Society, and then Tom actually re-retconned that for there to be time Nazis.
I mean,
And
time Nazis is stupid, but I'll take it.
well, no. I mean, if you're doing a pulp kind of ethos setting, time Nazis is great. It's just the right kind of stupid for a pulp. You know,
It,
the good guys are fighting time Nazis.
the truly terrible part here is that they used an evil laboratory plan
Mhm.
when the actual answer was staring them in the face if they just wanted a little more historical acuity.
Mhm.
So you have Ben and company in the trenches, in the foxhole, in the no man's land,
Mhm.
on the Western Front,
Mhm.
right? Just have them get hit by some kind of new gas.
Yeah, because they also did biological weapons during the war.
Right. Everyone's like, well, mustard gas is just blah 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 blah. It's like it's not about the killing you that mustard gas was horrifying. Mustard gas burns your skin. Mustard gas could mutate you. Mustard gas could cause cancers. It was a utterly horrifying new weapon. And to say, oh well, they tried a whole bunch of different mixtures and methods, and sometimes weird shit happened, right? It's like, yeah, people went insane in those trenches. You lean into the gothic horror aesthetics of World War One, and you say that Ben Riley and a bunch of boys went through some of the worst, most unspeakable stuff in the war that no one wants to admit, and that this scientist is now trying to basically cure what are gas survivors with burned lungs and twisted brains. The tragedy is there. You didn't need the lab. You don't need the super science. The super science is better implied rather than explicit.
And with what they
But
did with the
but if they
doctor
but if they
later,
didn't do that, you wouldn't understand that Ben Riley has a stable mutation because he got bit by a vampire Spider-Man and became a Spider-Man, so they can make a spider antidote.
yeah,
Because this plot fucking sucks.
it wasn't good. It wasn't good. And also, if they'd made it a experimental biological weapon thing, he would have made the subplot with the doctor make more sense.
Oh, I will do even better. Again, let's envision a better movie. You know, he's there, he's getting the files, right? And you see Ben Riley reading them, right? Right?
Mm-hmm.
I would have put a note in the files. Never explained it, just a note, right? Stating, exposed to L gas, right?
Mm-hmm.
Right? And then a handwritten note under it that says Latveria question mark, right?
I mean, they don't want to cross the streams with the extended Spider-Verse content like that.
I understand that. But if in an ideal universe where they could, right? If you say, oh, Doctor Doom, who is a well known time traveler, and his predecessors did their own horrific experiments during World War One, instantly you don't need Nazis. You don't. Of course, Latveria had super chemicals. Of course, they did all kinds of unspeakable shit.
I really wish Spider Noir was good, or
I
I really wish it was rancid bad, so there'd be like really bad things that were done that we could be really emotionally invested in. It was
that's
just fucking tiresome.
that's that's I'm not tired of it, but I am disappointed in it, and I would not be inclined to watch another season. I'm like, okay, Nick, you made your love letter to film noir. I'm gonna go watch actual film noir now. I'm gonna go watch The Shadow from 1992 because that's a better superhero movie.
But yeah. So Rune, have you ever played the Backrooms video game?
I have not played, but I am very familiar with the Backrooms existence because
Did you know?
I'm a horror hound, so I'm very familiar with liminal horror and analog horror as concepts.
So did you know they made that into an A24 movie?
Yes. Do I have any desire to see it? No. Do I know that it's kicking the shit out of the mango and grok? Yes.
It's one of the things that's kicking the shit out of the Mango and Grok. But I saw it. It's
Oh,
a it's a pseudo found footage movie
okay.
where like they have large hunks of it that are found footage, and
Mm-hmm.
like all found footage movies, it gave me a really massive headache watching it
Okay.
because of the consistent tropes of the group of people in the found footage, the drama of them fighting with each other, and also from my experience with Backrooms games is there's not a lot of story to those games. There are things that
Well,
happen that are somewhat story shaped, but there's not a lot of story.
well, we have to credit that this was not originally a movie or a story. This started as a
It was a Gary's
extremely
mod. It was a Gary's mod
no,
thing,
it wasn't.
right?
No, it wasn't even Gary's mod. It was a creepy pasta.
Right.
It was just a story on the internet that people picked up and ran with, kind of like SCP.
Hmm.
Which means that there is no centralized lore. People just do whatever the fuck they want.
But I mean, it was difficult to watch because there was lots of the hey, let's do some cutaways to the actual setting world and stuff that implies depth to the story. Like, no, the actors did a fine enough job, I guess.
I mean, because I watched the Red Letter Media review of this earlier today, I have to give it credit where credit's due. They were correct to credit this. It does have one advantage over many other horror movies.
Okay.
It's well lit. You can see everything.
Yeah, no. That is something I will say. We have complained a lot about how everything's too goddamn dark in movies and TV.
Well, because I have
And
also seen the other end of that spectrum. Last night I finally saw Iron Lung.
nice. What did you
Which,
think of Iron Lung?
oh, it's okay. Um, it's cosmic horror. It's kind of by the numbers. I think that Markiplier is actually a very able actor. But I mean, I'm not writing home about it. It was a fun popcorn movie with a friend.
I
But
think
but the
Markiplier's on the cusp of being a strong director.
oh yeah, the two things though are, one, that movie is incredibly dark, but at least it's contextually appropriate to be dark because there's
Mhm.
all, imagine that he's in a floating metal coffin, right?
It
Um,
it feels like it's correct.
right. But the other thing is that in development, he had remarked a couple of times that there was more fake blood than he had ever seen, that he had gotten everywhere, that it was in his ears and in his nostrils, and if he never saw fake blood again, it'd be too soon. And having seen that movie, I'm like, oh my god, this is more fake blood than I've ever seen, and I've seen a lot of movies.
I did not. It was too much for me. I was not able to watch that movie in toto.
I did finish it, but it's not a huge thing whether or not you saw it completely or not. I'm just saying it's a well-made piece. I understand why it was successful. I also understand why that success really agitated people who did not want it to succeed. I mean, quite frankly, when you really boil it down, it's a bottle movie, like
It
a
is.
bottle episode. It's what, 2 rooms? It's 2 rooms and maybe 3 actors, and
Mhm.
they don't need a lot of sets, they don't need a lot of material, there's a lot of atmosphere, there's a lot of build up, it's a character study. It is everything that modern Hollywood says people don't want to see anymore, and I was okay seeing it. If
Mhm.
I had paid for it, I would not want my money back.
You had been satisfied.
I would have been satisfied. Now, with that in mind, if I was going to see it in the theater, would I say see it on a matinee? Yeah, see it cheap. But if you can see it in the theater, go see it in the theater. Give Markiplier a bone.
And give the theaters a bone. The theaters can
Yeah,
do.
this is the important part of filmic language needs to come back to critical review. By the way, right? Is the sliding scale. It's like, look, it's trash. Don't see it. It's trash, but you should see it. And if you see it free, or it's trash, but throw them some money. They deserve it. Only the best film should be like, go see this now, go see this full price, go see this opening night.
Yeah. So, um, I also saw a movie called Dead Man's Wire on Netflix, and it was really odd.
I have
It's
not
like
seen.
it's a movie from like a couple of years back, and it's what if a guy gets screwed over by a mortgage company in the 70s, and the guy who gets screwed over by the mortgage company is kind of crazy, thinks the world owes him a bunch of money, ends up getting punked by the police, and then getting off on a mental disease or defect situational argument. And I'm like going, this is just really weird. And like, it's all about the character study of the kidnapper versus the kidnappee. And I just like
Right.
going, ugh. But this was a movie which had Al Pacino in it. And Al Pacino was briefly in there as a Fred Trump character.
Okay.
Also, don't recommend this. Not a fan. Not a fan of this at all. Uh, and so let's talk about some comics because you said you had read a bunch of comics for the show today.
Well, as I said, I read Spider Noir books.
Yeah, so let's dig into what Spider Noir actually is. Because
Okay.
I was never particularly into that.
I mean, I'm not either, but I need to dial back something I said a little bit earlier because we're clarifying now. The first Spider Noir is a very good comic with a very specific story, and as a standalone, is excellent. Okay, it is the origin story of Peter Parker if Peter Parker was in the 1930s. They don't give a date, but presumably the very early 30s. Okay. Aunt May is a red and is agitating for labor. Uncle Ben gets killed because this was a time when innocent people got shot by mobsters and gangsters and criminals all the fucking time.
It was a
And
thing that happened.
and Peter Parker is literally an angry young man who is on a trajectory to getting fucking murked. Right? When luck shines on him and when he is about to be beat to death by some of a mobster's minions, Ben Urich, crime reporter, steps out and says, "Hey, don't beat up that kid. I'd hate to have to, put your pictures in the paper." And so Peter Parker ends up working for Ben Urich as his photographer as they go on the crime beat. But Ben Urich is on the take. He's working for a crime boss known as the Goblin, who is played by Norman Osborn. The thing is that because this is the 30s and the period, you could be a very public crime figure and just get the fuck away with it.
Yeah, yeah,
Right?
like like
Um,
like Capone.
yeah, and that's the thing is he's basically playing a Capone. Uh, at a dockside meeting one night, as he is having stolen artifacts trafficked in, one of them
Mhm.
breaks, releasing uh, essentially a spider spirit that bites Peter Parker, and Peter Parker receives the blessing of the Spider God and gets spider powers. Because this was for that short window of time where they were trying to sell us on the idea that Spider-Man is actually a totemic image and not a science hero, right?
And they've drifted back to that a couple of times.
Yeah. Uh, but once he has the spider powers, he immediately decides I can use these to get revenge on my father's killers, and he becomes a Spider-Man with twin 9 millimeters. And
I mean, yes,
that is the real difference between Peter Parker of 616 and Spider Noir. Is that Spider Noir should be the Shadow with webs, and it is brilliant because he's using Ben Urich's collected blackmail material after they murder Ben Urich to take down the Green Goblin's criminal empire one fuckface at a time, right? And only Norman Osborn's variant of the Sinister Six, which is more like the Sinister Four, is in place to help him fight the Spider-Man, right? Uh, there is Felicia Hardy. There is a romantic angle. Things do become complicated, but eventually the bad guys get got. The Spider-Man learns a lesson about responsibility because Aunt May doesn't want to live in a world where people in masks murder each other. And Peter realizes, oh God, am I the shitbag?
And the answer to
And
that is kinda.
yeah, the answer is kinda. And a renewed and redeemed hero goes forth to fight for the unrepresented in the grimy streets of 1930s New York. It's a solid story. The subsequent releases immediately shit can this. Because in the way of Hollywood sequels, you're like, well, what if more, but bigger? So it instantly becomes Spider-Man if he was Indiana Jones in globetrotting. Spider-Man fighting Nazis. Spider-Man fighting new and bigger criminals with more sweeping super schemes. And it sucks. They suck across the board. They're awful. The only thing to come out of the subsequent Spider-Noir books that I read that was actually halfway decent is they do a really, really novel interpretation of Otto Octavius, and somebody was paying attention in history class. Holy shit! So
Okay.
this version of Otto Octavius, and I understand why they could never do this on TV. Okay, this version of Otto Octavius is a Boer from South and West Africa who was disabled and was dependent on the family help to care for him, right?
And thus
But
he makes the octopi tentacles.
right, he actually makes a wheelchair with legs. The thing is that his position of actual privilege, his position of beneficiary, did not incentivize him to care. He looks down on the the Africans that were caring for him and his family because they are degenerate, lascivious, slovenly, all the disdainful things that someone in a position of authority over postmodern slaves would have. And having come to America and continued his studies and become a doctor of the sciences, he is working on trying to create a new man for his Nazi masters, who believe that his disability is from a injury, not congenital.
Okay.
And so what Spider-Man discovers in, I want to say, the third or second Spider-Noir set is that Otto Octavius is lobotomizing black men to turn them into laboring zombies for the fifth column Nazi movement in America.
Hmm.
Because Otto Octavius believes that they will be better off as servants who cannot question than free and thinking people. This is terrible. Spider-Man puts a stop to it, as you'd expect. Otto Octavius escapes at the last minute, takes a flight to Germany, and is met by Heinrich Himmler on the tarmac, where he informs him that they have discovered his deception, and he immediately orders the stormtroopers to take this offensive individual to the camps, because the future has no place for cripples in an Aryan world.
Oh, that's uncomfortable.
Uncomfortable, but also historically fucking correct.
Yes. Yes. So, let's talk a little bit about the blackout protest for DC Comics.
Okay.
Well, I mean, you saw that, right?
I saw the posting. I didn't realize it was a broader movement. I thought it was some guy running his face. Tell me more, Larry.
Well, there's not a black character leading a DC book. Hasn't been for like 1,000 days.
Who gives a
So,
shit? I mean,
well, look. There are a lot of black YouTubers, including ones like this guy who has a white wife, who wanted to protest and start a boycott, a blackout, if you will, to try to convince them to put a black character in the lead. And I'm just saying, fuck it, shove Static Shock out there. Also, Black Lightning, as Brian Edward Hill wrote him, is a solid character. Put him out there. You get the outsiders led by Black Lightning the way that Brian Edward Hill did it. It was a good team book. Put that out there. You have options. You don't need to say, well, what if we have this alternate future Black Batman? I'm like, what? Really? So what do you think about this protest?
You already failed, guys, because you already had that shot.
Hmm?
See, I read comics, Larry. I actually read comics. And there was this arc called the Death of Spider, or not Death of Spider-Man, the Death of Batman, Death of Bruce Wayne.
Mhm.
Do you recall the Death of Bruce Wayne?
I do.
So Bruce Wayne got zotted by Darkseid, got sent into the past. Everyone thought he was actual dead. And there was a battle for the cowl, and a bunch of different would-be Batmen came out of the shadows. One of them was a Batman created by a program through the Gotham PD for a replacement Batman that had been infiltrated by the Order of Saint Dumas that made Azrael.
Mhm.
And that was a black cop. They were working on having a black Azrael who could have theoretically been a black Batman as a black lead. And you know what? Nobody gave a fuck.
They did not. No.
Okay? Now you can say, and it's not untrue, that this is what you get when you have lame characters that nobody cares about. But the fact of the matter is that if you make a lame Batman, if you put a black guy in Batman and make him gay, nobody's going to read that either. People read Cyborg and people read Static Shock because Static Shock and Cyborg are good fucking characters.
Yeah.
Make good characters.
I mean, they tried to ruin Static Shock recently, but
right, but that's the thing. It's like, of course, you can also ruin a good character. Okay, you can even take a bad character and make it better. This is why Black Panther has never hit, because Black Panther has, to my knowledge, never had a good run. But they keep trying to push him to the forefront. Just make good characters. Making a black future Batman does not solve your problem. And while we're at it, calling it the Blackout is not ideal, guys.
well, I mean, they're black people and they want to be out, so it's blackout.
Right, but isn't this the same language that we criticize when white people talk about the Great Replacement? We want to black out all you white people. It's like, it's kind of what you're saying.
No,
kind of what you're saying.
No, because the rules don't count for them because they're the ones who make the rules.
Right. See, that's my problem. I always assume the rules apply to everybody.
Yeah.
From my position of white cripple privilege.
Exactly. But now you learn, because it's the thing you need to learn.
Which is what this is all really about, is, the dialogue, the conversation. We need to talk about the fact that there aren't enough black superheroes, not actually make black superheroes, because we don't want solutions. We want to be angry.
So let's talk about something that makes us angry.
Oh boy.
You heard about the feet juice, right?
This doesn't make me angry. This is just gross. But yes, I heard about the real life feet juice, and now I've seen the anime feet juice thing.
Well, I mean, did you watch the actual video of the cosplay girls producing the feet juice?
Yes, and I personally think anyone that is enough of a degenerate to drink fucking feet juice from an unwashed foot doesn't get to complain about getting sick from it. Fuck you. You drink the feet juice. Suffer.
I mean, if I were one of those girls, I would have at least had the decency to clean my feet before I made the feet juice.
It doesn't matter because there are multiple young women, and we don't know how many hours they had their feet in fucking feet juice. Okay? They weren't drinking feet juice. They were drinking the juices of multiple feet with multiple skin cells and fucking God knows what else and sweat. All right? The young men were degenerates. The young women were separating those men from their money. Everybody here is disposable. Fuck them.
Exactly. Exactly. Let's see what else we got up here.
I mean, we talked
Yeah.
about Captain America being dead
Oh,
last week, as I recall.
we did. We did. Let's talk about some James Bond.
Yeah.
I mean,
Although I personally think that this claim before the clip is false.
it's actually not.
That the parade didn't exist.
The parade didn't exist before that movie. But
See,
when
I would swear that there were locally rather than nationally some
well, no,
reasonably large Day of the Dead celebrations.
there were neighborhood Day of the Dead celebrations in Mexico City,
Yeah,
but they were not full-size celebrations.
right.
And this was made to be like a major citywide thingamajig.
I'm just
Mexico
saying
City,
I'm just saying that the presentation of information infers that before this film, before this James Bond film, there were no Day of the Dead parades. And it's like, no, there were, but it was more like New Year's Day in Chinatown, where yeah, they have a bunch of them, nobody gives a shit.
well, no, actually, New Year's Day in Chinatown's always been a big thing. Mexico
Right,
paid,
but it's a big thing in Chinatown. It's not a big thing where outside of Chinatown the day stops and everyone recognizes that China is having New Year's.
well, let me read this.
Yeah.
Mexico paid $20 million for 8 minutes in this movie. Those 8 minutes forced them to invent an entire new cultural tradition. Before Spectre, Mexico City had no Day of the Dead parades. The holiday was celebrated at home, at cemeteries with family altars, quiet, intimate, centuries old. Sam Mendes fabricated a massive uh, street parade for the opening sequence, shot it with 1,500 extras in skeleton costumes wearing the Zolocho, and audiences worldwide assumed these were real annual events. Mexico's government had negotiated hard for the placement, so this was manufactured because the government did it.
Right.
Leaked Sony email hacks showed officials offered up to $20 million in tax incentives for 4 minutes of positive portrayal. Sony was drowning in a $300 million budget. The deal included script changes. Bond girl had to be a Mexican actress. The villain could not be Mexican, and the city's modern skyline had to appear on screen. Then the movie opened in 182 countries, and tourists started booking flights to Mexico for the parade. The
Right.
parade did not exist. Tourism authorities panicked. Visitors were arriving expecting the spectacle they saw in the film, finding nothing. So in October 2016, the government spent $500,000, hired 650 volunteers, built dozens of floats and giant skeleton marionettes, because basically they made it like dead people Mardi Gras, and staged
Yeah.
the first real Dia de los Muertos parade in Mexico City. 250,000 people showed up. Goblin called it a Spectre-style parade in press materials. 10 years later, the parade draws millions. Anthropologists call it the pizza effect, where a cultural element gets exported, transformed abroad, and re-imported as authentic. It also happened with fortune cookies, which were, when they first came to China, sold as authentic American fortune cookies.
Fuck you, anthropologists. I mean,
Mexico's most famous public celebration of its most sacred holiday was invented by a British director shooting a $300 million spy movie. That's tracking shot is doing more for Mexico City's economy every November than the $20 million they paid for it.
here's the thing. The reason I say fuck you, anthropologists, as someone who actually respects and thinks anthropology doesn't get enough credit,
Mhm.
is It's not the pizza effect. This is how every major holiday gets
Well,
commercialized.
no. They call it the pizza effect because pizza was the first phenomena they documented of this. Where the original pizza in
Right,
Italy was a flatbread that was more
right.
tomato than cheese.
But here's the thing. Here's the thing. Where did Father's Day come from? Where did Mother's Day come from? Why do these holidays exist? Not to actually honor our relatives, although we should, and it's a good thing, but because greeting card companies wanted more days to sell more greeting cards for,
Yes, yes,
right?
but that's different than the original Sicilian pizza coming to America, becoming a lot of things, including that horrible pizza choice that is Chicago. But it's a seductive, horrible pizza choice from Chicago. Every time I'm
I
in
mean,
Chicago, I think to myself, do I like Chicago style
I
pizzas
mean,
or do
it's
I
not.
hate them?
I mean, it's not the worst pizza choice. The worst pizza choice is actually what they do in Hawaii, where they haven't figured
Well,
out what a pizza is
well,
yet.
hold up. That actually wasn't made in Hawaii. It was made by a Canadian.
You know that makes sense because I can absolutely believe Canadians do not know what pizza is. Fuck you, Canada.
That,
actually, you know what? He's not around, and I miss him. I'm just those out there. You know who we need to tell us about Day of the Dead? John Dillard. If you're out there, if you hear this, tell us about the Day of the Dead. I mean, you're a Californian and a father, and you don't give a shit. But tell us anyway, Latin man.
I mean, he's got a family. He's done some stuff. It's pretty good.
I only make the joke because I do actually miss John. I haven't seen him crop up in Dillard live streams or anything for quite some time, longer than uh Church has been gone. It's like Dillard may have gone for smokes and cigarettes, but Dillard like is well and truly gone. He has abandoned all of his comic children.
I mean, he's done some stuff. Our boy John has done some stuff. Let me see.
I just figure he's busy raising the children's.
Yeah. So I actually found something from a local paper that made me a little sad, and I wanna share it with you.
Okay.
I wanna share my sadness. But first, I want to ask you: are you a virgin when it comes to Rocky Horror?
I am not, but I have never been to a live show by choice, and I want to be very clear about that
Well,
because I
that's
did
good.
read this article.
Op-Ed, the Rocky Horror Show still hasn't figured out its call-out problem. I don't think it's a problem, but I think it is gatekeeping. Let's start off with that. If you've ever watched Rocky Horror on your TV and your movie, you don't have the full experience.
You do not.
If you're not at the theater with a bag of popcorn, you're missing out. There's all sorts of things that are said, and if you're a virgin who's not gone to a live performance, and you have someone who's not a virgin who at least educates you on that, you have a better time. You have a better appreciation of what's there. All right, and I do actually this picture that they use here. I do like the visuals they have for it. I think that's a good stage production visual. I think Tim Curry would approve of all that.
Yeah.
My first experience with Rocky Horror was the 2000 Broadway revival. I had no idea what I was getting into, but I really don't know why my parents took me to see it. Well, your parents took you to see it because your parents were cool, clearly. Besides being encouraging of their teenage son's theater habit, in the production, which Christopher Ashley directed at the Circle and the Square Theater, they sold Rocky Horror participation kits filled with confetti and a newspaper and a pink boa. I remember it being a free for all, a vibe fitting of a production that sold stuff that you ostensibly threw at the stage and eventually had a rotating assortment of narrators that included Jerry Springer and Sally Jesse Raphael. Now, that sounds like a reason to go to the theater, doesn't it? The
I
whole
mean,
experience.
you'd think
Because
certainly.
we've talked about how the theater's in decline, and
Yeah.
the you make the theater experience, obviously. Over the last 26 years, I've become a Rocky Horror enthusiast. I'm not obsessive, but I appreciate it. Like many, I know the classic callouts: Brad, asshole; Janet, slut; dark storm clouds, describe your balls; heavy, black, and pendulous. Sam Pinkerton's new revival at Studio 54 really delivered on the anticipation I had built up. I've seen it twice now, and it's one of my favorite shows of the year. Pinkerton is one of the smartest directors working. The DIY sensibility that won him a Tony for Oh Mary is the perfect fit for Richard O'Brien's lo-fi universe where a transvestite alien wants to fuck as many Earthlings as he can. Pinkerton knows that audience participation is part of Rocky Horror, so it surprised me that the production seemed caught off guard by the fact that the audience members wanted to shout back at the stage. 2 months into their Tony nominated run, an average Saturday night drifted towards chaos, and no one seemed to be sure where the line was. This revival has asshole and slut and say it baked in at the point that those improvised lines are better known than any other piece of dialogue in O'Brien's script. It also brings up two audience members to do the time warp. That's kind of neat. And Rachel Dratch ended up being the perfect choice to play the narrator. She's a veteran improv comic who can volley any ball tossed in her direction without blinking. There's a room for more obscure callouts or specific regional ones, or even the especially dirty ones. It doesn't come out on Janet's face in the revival. That's the issue. It wants the energy of Rocky Horror participation without committing the cacophony of voices that comes with Rocky Horror participation, leaving the actors to manage in real time. Now, if you're an actor and you're doing Rocky Horror, you should know that that's what you're going to get. And you should basically do your best to tune out as much of the audience as you can. I mean, right? That
That
seems to
is
be.
that is part of it.
When I realized I first saw, it's like what Ben Kingsley said in Wonder Man. Just get on your mark and read your lines. Don't think about it, just do it. When I saw the production in April, the calls were subdued, and the audience took the hint when they realized that Luke Evans, Frank-N-Furter, and company were plowing right over them. This was right after the New York Times and New York Post put out stories about how the actors were struggling to deal with audience members who wanted to be especially vocal. This past weekend was a different story. On Saturday night, shout outs rang all over Studio 54 from the front of the orchestra to the rear of the mezzanine. One woman near us seemed to think that she was in her own private showing. Came to a head with 2 minutes of the first song, science fiction double feature, when Juliette Lewis looked directly at her and perturbedly broke the fourth wall to say, "Why don't you sing it instead?" I mean, that's kind of rude. The woman didn't exactly get the hint. The talking to from security intermission seemed to quiet her down briefly, but when Evans floated down on his moon during the floor show, she started up again. He stopped, glared, and finally said, "You're lucky I'm on a moon." That was a more charitable response than one other audience member who bluntly shouted, "Shut up, bitch," at the disruptor. Evans and much of the audience seemed to delight in that. The studio at 54 is that a non-committal stance gets you nowhere. You can't include some callouts and get mad when people take that as an indication to continue. They have a character hold up a sign at the beginning that says, "Enjoy the show, don't be an asshole." I agree with that sentiment. They also have a note on the website that says, "Choose your callouts carefully, as this is a Broadway musical on a midnight showing of the film." I agree with that too, but my definition of careful isn't the same as someone else's. Here's an idea: free of charge. Print a flyer listing the callouts that are welcome and hand it out with every program. That sounds like a good idea. Maybe it will help, maybe it won't, but at least it's a stance, and with the run of the now extended through November, the production needs one. But it's not just an issue of the production, this is live theater. People on stage can't hear you. As an audience member, you need to be mindful of that. Post COVID, theater etiquette has become a well documented problem, and the actors shouldn't have to be the decorum police in addition to doing 8 shows a week. Neither should the ushers nor your fellow patrons. The experience might be about you, but it's also about the person next to you. So here's another idea free of charge. Don't be a butthead and ruin it for everybody. After all, giving yourself over to the absolute pleasure is easier when everyone else agrees to the rules. So, Rocky Horror Picture being used to tell people to be squares. That's kind of weird. Doesn't that
Here's
feel
the
weird to you?
here's the thing, though. I don't disagree.
Well, I mean, I don't disagree either, but it feels weird.
Well, here's the thing, okay? Growing up, I had heard Rocky Horror is so great. Rocky Horror is so great. My parents thought it was pretty great, but they wanted to wait till I was old enough to see it because it was reasonably saucy material. And my parents erred on the side of be careful with what our kid consumes. So I saw it first on TV. I was like, this is okay, right? Then I found out about what happens at midnight showings. And I said, that's not for me. And my folks are like, what do you mean? It's like, because as much fun as that is, and I understand everyone's having fun and that's fine for them, the first time somebody spritzed me with a squirt gun, my fun would be ruined. I would not be entertained. I showed up to watch the fucking movie. Right?
Hmm?
So rather than tell other people they couldn't, I was just like, you know what? I don't have to go to a live show. I just don't. That's okay. Then, because Rocky Horror was popular with everyone, I met people who actually worked the shows, not as fans, even though they were fans, obviously, but as performers. Right?
Hmm?
One of my mom's early caregivers was married to a young woman who went to LARP with me and was the tap dancing redhead.
Right.
And quite frankly, they're obnoxious. I don't mean just that person. I mean Rocky Horror workers are obnoxious because they're working Rocky Horror. They think they're hot shit. And I was like, yeah, you dance in front of a movie and act like a clown and you think you're hot shit. Good job. So I can understand, especially as people have said, in a post-COVID world, when we think about things like the Minecraft movie, where every showing destroyed a theater, right? That audiences might not actually understand the mores, because this is about mores, not morals, of going to a Rocky Horror Picture Show. They don't know how to just have fun and not insult everybody and not be a giant pain in the ass. You have to measure your environment. What's going on there? Now, should the Rocky Horror people either have been prepared for people who are going to call out or done more effort to tell people, hey, this is a live performance, not the film. Please act accordingly. Yes. Right? But it is also entirely possible that these audiences are acting like fucking savages because nobody knows how to behave themselves in public anymore. Also fucking true.
Yeah. Yeah. So, you read Spider Noir. Did you read any other comics of note?
Well, as I mentioned, I read Predator. I was reading Batman Predator, but that is not the comic of repute. The thing of wonders we are going to talk about. I drank some poison, Larry.
You did.
Oh God, I did. And I kept the link so that I could describe it adequately. Something we've mentioned in passing. Something we knew was going to happen. I read Star Trek Celebrations.
Ugh.
Oh, it is the worst thing I have ever fucking seen. It is let me get a count here. It is 40 pages plus cover of Star Trek. And I thought, oh, cool, Star Trek comic. Celebration. Oh, we're celebrating that's the 60th anniversary of Star Trek, which it says in the lower right corner here, 60th anniversary. No, it's not about the 60th anniversary of Star Trek. It's not about 60 years of Star Trek. It's celebrating Star Trek being gay.
Well, I mean,
It's the gayest Star Trek.
well, it's one of these gay anthologies they make, and I'm not
It
saying that
is a
pejoratively. Well, I
No,
mean, I am saying
it
it
is.
pejoratively, but it's
It is.
about gay people.
It is objectively a gaythology.
And they like to do it with black people and brown people and Asian people.
Well, this is Star Trek, so they can sidestep a lot of accusations by using aliens. So it's a lot of humans with aliens.
Yeah, yeah.
So I'm just gonna read you the titles. Because when I say that nothing happens in any of these stories, nothing happens in these stories. All of these stories are about people kissing and having
Mhm.
emotions and smiling at each other. So the first comic is Girlfriends, and is set in I want to say Picard era because it's 7 of 9.
Yeah, 7 of 9 in
Right.
Rashi thing.
Something, yeah. Then we have Mix Tillier's Night Out, which is about trying to get a Vulcan laid. Then there's Worst Case Scenario Protocol. Then there's Klingons Don't Flirt, which is a Starfleet Academy story.
Mhm.
Then we have Love's First Bloom. And then we have one called Lovesick. All right. Let's see here. Almost all of these are written by women. There's one that's written by a man. Okay. And in terms of art, it is singly uninteresting. This is the laziest shit from IDW. They basically said, we have a license and we need a book.
And
It is
there's it's Gay Pride Month. So let's make it gay.
here's the thing. It's Star Trek. Okay? You say you want to do a story, you want to have the primary characters be gay. Fine. Do a Star Trek. Do a Star Trek adventure. Make me feel like being in the super future where a couple of gay people can go on the same kind of awesome adventures everyone else goes on would be a great place to be. No, no. This is about feelings. This is about emotions. This is about situations. Okay? This is not Star Trek. You could scrub the Star Trek out of this and slap Star Wars in and nothing would change. At all. This is slop. This is gay slop. This is romantasy for comic nerds. It is terrible. I do not suggest. Oh, by the way, group editor Heather Antos. I can't imagine how there might in fact be a connection between a political extremist with a queer and lesbian bias and a piece of shit book at IDW. I can't imagine how those two things are connected. That's just got to be some kind of horrible coincidence.
Well, Heather has a full Rolodex of gay people.
Wait, like binders full of gay people?
Binders full of gay people.
I don't know. I was told binders full of people is wrong.
Well, it is if you're a Republican. If you're left, it's
Okay.
perfectly fine.
Okay, if you have binders full of people and you're a Republican, that's an Epstein Island list. If you're lefty, it's just a thing you do. Okay, got it.
So, it's been hard for me to find things to watch that really get my fires going. But I did watch the rest of that the Burrows, the Stranger Things for old people.
Okay.
And I want to finish the show by finishing up that series now that I've seen the whole thing.
Well, I also did watch one other thing, but we can wait till after your description of the Burrows for that.
So, Stranger Things meets Cocoon in an Arizona town. Old people eventually find out, there's aliens crawling all over the town, harvesting their brain juices, and they're feeding it to Mama Alien. And one of the group happens to be a doctor, happens to be dying of prostate cancer. So he's on the team trying to fix Mama Alien. Uh,
As you do.
and what they realize is that, well, what we need to do is feed the baby aliens to Mama Alien because eating human brain juices isn't good enough for her to sustain her health. And she just wants to die. So the show ends up being all about death with dignity as part of the aging process. So
Okay.
I was kind of checked out at that point, but I mean, at least it was interesting. The idea of a bunch of old people, and by old I mean late 60s, early 70s, having a Goonies style adventure. It's appealing to me because I'm reaching that kind of an age now.
Okay.
So, what was the other thing you saw?
So I have been writing up a storm recently. And as I have mentioned on this show before, ye old Robert E. Howard famously did fantasy, but his fantasies are actually westerns when you boil it down and distill it. So I have been watching some westerns. Now, being of a certain age, well, I could go watch the super classics, the black and whites, the Have Guns Will Travel, the Paladins. I grew up with the spaghetti westerns. So that's where my, and I understand those are deconstruction. I understand those are revisionist, but that's where my bread and butter is. So I went out of my way to find some free time to watch a pair of Clint Eastwood westerns that I had not actually sat down and watched. They had been on in the past. They circled around, but I never really sat down and watched them. Of the two, oddly enough, one I liked and one I didn't care for. All right. The one I liked was The Outlaw Josie Wales.
Outlaw Josie Wales is an excellent movie.
Which is basically, oh God, what's the name of that guy? Give me a second. God, I can't remember. There it is. The Homecoming of Martin Guerre. The Outlaw Josie Wales is the Homecoming of Martin Guerre, but for America.
Okay.
In Martin Guerre, a woman's husband goes off to war, and he's gone for decades, presumed dead. And a stranger arrives in town, and he doesn't exactly claim to be Martin Guerre, but everyone assumes, oh, you must be Martin Guerre. And he kind of goes with it, and kind of ends up with a wife and a house and a family and a community. When the real Martin Guerre shows up to collect his shit because he's heard that somebody has stolen his life, and he's kind of a piece of shit. And it's a important piece of I'm getting a date on its creation. It's a serious piece of 14th century literature because written in 1565. Because it talks about the ideas of like identity and how we recognize people and how communities interact, right? And truth and all kinds of stuff. The Outlaw Josie Wales is a Confederate who refuses to armistice, and the specifically the Redlegs are not presented very well because they were scum. As part of the Union Army, they were the ones that did the dirty work. And he ends up leading a cadre of misfits south into Texas, where he is more or less taken in by a small community because while he is a dangerous man, they have no biases against him, and he fills a useful niche in keeping them safe. So they cover for him. And the guy that is following to capture him is like, you know what? I'm gonna go look for the guy that I'm looking for somewhere else, and maybe you should stay here and not cause trouble. And again, it's a talk about identity and how we deal with things. It's a deep movie for a pretty good Western where bad guys get shot.
Yeah.
The other one, though, the one I did not care for as much, but is not a bad one, was High Plains Drifter.
Hmm.
Because High Plains Drifter is what's called a elemental Western. The High Plains Drifter, played by Clint Eastwood, may actually be an inhuman entity, or he may be a survivor of a calamity, but no one recognizes him for who he is, and he's kind of a shit the whole
Yeah.
time.
Yeah.
The thing is that the community that he rides into town to and ends up having to aid, it is discovered are also shitbags. That the patina of being upright, community minded can be incredibly false, right? Especially when you're surrounded by cowards and greed and base lust. The reason I didn't care for it as much is because, frankly, it's a very 60s, mid 70s movie, which, if you recall, was famously, I want to say it was the dirty 60s, is what they used to call it. Because that was when extremity started to be a cultural touchstone in film for authenticity. We're going to be dirty and we're going to do extreme things because in the 50s we were told we could never do extreme things, and so this is our counter reaction.
Let's
Right?
go take it all the way up to 11.
Up all the way up to 11, which frankly, when you think about it, the kind of waffly mid 90s sap movie is kind of a counter reaction to that, which is why now we have more and more things being put on TV where they're like, we're on cable, let's show a butt. It's bouncing between extremes. It's just that in the 60s and 70s they thought, hey, you know what? Let's have a rape scene. It'll be really edgy. Right? And deconstruction westerns like to suggest that rape and murder happened a lot. I'm not saying murder didn't happen, but like this idea of even heroes could do a rape and then no one could, everybody was just kind of helpless about it. It's like, nah. I don't think rape happened that much. And if it did, I don't think it was particularly approved of.
It was not. Although consent was a lot less clear cut back then.
Well, the other thing about High Plains Drifter specifically with this subject is whereas in the Outlaw Josie Wales, he prevents a rape and then the girl basically falls in love with her protector, which is a very classic hero beat, even if it's kind of gamey, right? In High Plains Drifter, he has two sexual encounters, women who objectively refuse to have sex. But the difference is that the first one was basically picking a fight with him because she wanted to be manhandled, which society was not quite ready for a conversation about, and I don't think still is.
Mm.
And the other one didn't want it, but for lack of better language and perhaps speaking to some cultural nuances about the West and what we thought of the place of women in society, she learned to be okay with it.
Yeah.
Because her husband was a limp dick. That's right. Clint Eastwood was literally in a movie cucking another man. But the thing is that still very good westerns, solid recommendations, even though they are on the older side, but they are distinctly creatures of their time. I wouldn't necessarily suggest them for everyone if you are of sensitive sensibilities. And on our earlier conversations, something you and I were talking about the other day, kids in movies. No, we were talking about it today before show. Kids in movies. I fucking hate that kid in a fistful of dollars. Like I love that movie, but that kid can take me right the fuck out of that film. I hate that kid. Do you know the kid?
I do.
God, that is like nails on a chalkboard crying.
Well, I think we've reached a natural end point for the show this week.
Sure.
And I'm going to say goodnight, everybody.
Good night, everybody. Church, we miss you.